I participated in a photo challenge this week where the goal was to find something in nature that was backlit with a light that was shining through the subject. And this is my entry for the challenge. I wanted to take a few minutes here to show you what I did to process this photo and really bring it out using the Adobe RAW utility. Right away, you can see that the photo is very, very washed out. The leaves look pretty good, but because I'm intentionally taking a photo into the sun, clearly I've got a very, very bright light, not only from the sun and the starburst, but also the sky. So that's one of the first things that I want to show how I brought it out. So one of the first things that I'm going to do is to take the highlight slider and really lower it a lot. So the highlight slider is really going to control how bright or dark the bright parts of the image are. So in this case, I'm going to bring the highlights down, and in fact, I'm probably going to bring it all the way down. You can kind of start to see the sky sort of come out. You can see a little bit of clouds. I'll show you the before and after. There's the after. There's the before. So you can see it started to help a little bit, but still not nearly enough. Now the sky was blue that day, so what I can do is try to recover the blues a little bit better. So if we go to the Luminance tab, I can take my blue slider and really try to bring out the blue of the sky. And this works out well. There's really not much other blue in the image, so that gives me an option to really control just the sky portion. And let's bring that down and see what we can get. You know, as I kind of get here, I can start to see a little bit more of the sky and the clouds. Doesn't look quite the way I'd like it, but it's getting a little bit closer. The next thing I want to do is maybe try to increase the saturation of the blue. Again, make it a little bit more bold. Let's try that. And again, as I increase the saturation a bit, again, I can start to see a little bit more of the blue. No, still not quite as dark as I'd like it to be, but we're getting closer. One of the last things that I can do that I really like is to use the dehaze filter. And this is great if you're really shooting into a bright light or a bright subject. The dehaze kind of gets rid of the overall hazy white of the image, and it makes the colors a little bit bolder. So that's under the Effects tab, and we can go to the dehaze, and let's start out with a little bit. And you can see as I'm doing it, it really starts to bring out the sky a lot better. So with just a few clicks, we can see that we've got a much nicer sky, whereas we had nothing before. Let's compare the before and after. This was the original image. Again, there's almost no usable sky whatsoever. But when I turn this on, turn this on, I get a much nicer, more usable sky. Now, in a lot of cases, I might have shot this in HDR, since you have a lot of dark areas and some very light areas. In this case, the leaves are moving around, and to try to get 3 or 5 shots without things moving around probably wouldn't have worked. So that's why I just shot a single shot using RAW. The next thing I want to do is to try to brighten up these shadowy areas. The leaves aren't bad, but since they're the main subject, I'd really like to make them a bit brighter and bolder. So again, we're going to do the opposite of the highlights. So we wanted to darken the highlights. I'm going to try to brighten the shadows. So let's bring that up. And you can see as I'm doing it, it really is just immediately brightening up the leaves. Let's take the before and after on that. So that's with a little bit brighter, and that's the original. So you can see it really does brighten the leaves nicely. But let's try to even make them stand out even a little bit more. So we're going to go back to the Luminance tab. And again, the idea was in this photo was to try to show the light coming through the leaves. So I'm going to try to brighten that area up even a little bit more. And the leaves are mostly orange, so let's try to, we're going to be a little subtle here. Let's just try to brighten the oranges up a little bit, and I'll do the same thing with the reds and yellows. And you can see with just a few changes there, compare the before and after, you can kind of see that it just adds a nice little subtle touch to the leaves, brightening them up a bit. And we're starting to get a little bit nicer of an image overall. If I look at it, I kind of like the sky. I'm liking the leaves. You know, the starburst is a little bit too overbearing for me. So one thing that we can do is to use the radial filter, and this is going to let me just adjust a more localized change around the starburst, and I really want to darken this. So I'm going to set my exposure to start with half a stop darker, and really all I need to do is to drag a circle around that area. Let's make it about like that, and we're going to just darken the area around the starburst. All right, so right away, when we make the exposure down, it darkened it a bit, but let's also bring down the highlights just as we did before, but we're going to bring them down even a little bit further just in that area. All right, we can see it's kind of subtle. This is without the highlights change, and that's with. It just brought a little bit further down. And I'm actually going to apply a little bit more dehaze filter in this area as well. So let's bring that up. Let's go a little bit more. All right, let me show you the difference before and after there. So now with all that was the original starburst, and now that was after. Not a huge difference, but you can kind of see before this was all completely saturated, and now you've got a little bit more visibility. Let's even go a little bit more dehaze there. Again, that's the before and that's the after. All right, good. I'm starting to get the image where I like it. Let's do a couple little finishing touches and just kind of show you where things ended up. Always like add a little bit of contrast to the image. Don't want to go too crazy. Anything like that is certainly too much. To me 10 or 15 is nice. Just adds a little bit. One of my favorite things in this image is the texture coming through the leaves, the veins, I guess. I'm not sure what they're called. But if we boost the clarity a bit, we're really going to see that a lot more. So as I start to boost that up, I kind of like it a lot there. Let's compare. That's kind of without the clarity, and that's with. Does a real nice job showing the detail in the leaves. And finally, one of my favorite parts about this image is kind of the nice, bold, contrasting colors. So I'm going to boost the saturation a bit. We don't need to go crazy. Maybe just 10 or 15 or so. And that's pretty much it. Just in about 5 or 10 minutes, we were able to take this image from the original, which was nice leaves but really no interesting sky. And after just a few minutes of changes, we've brought it out to this, which is a photo that I'm really happy with. So thank you all very much.